Welcome to the Basics of Cyclone, Part 7. In this installment, we're going to cover extracting targets and registering to control. If you remember from Part 1 of the Basics of Cyclone, where we imported data, you do have an option to automatically extract targets. In this case, I did not extract them. Also, if you were importing P-series data and had acquired targets out in the field, you also would not need to acquire targets automatically or manually at this point either, unless there were additional targets you needed. In this case, it's RTC 360 data that we have imported. So I've already extracted my targets and I've actually already aligned all of my scans, but just to show you, I would maximize this folder, right-click on any one of my scan worlds and select Open TrueSpace. When I open that, I would simply turn to wherever my targets were, and I can select a target, then come up to Create Target, and select whichever option it is that you're looking for the type of target. In my case, I chose Find Black and White Targets from PICS. At this time, I could select my target, and I could click this Add button, and now I could type in a point ID, a comment, a height, and all that stuff if I needed to. Since I've already extracted, I'm going to hit cancel here. And if I was going to add that, I would then just click on this add button and it would add my target. Since I've already added everything, I just wanted to show you guys how to extract them. So now the next step is we need to import our survey control. So I'm just going to highlight the database and right click and select import. Then I'm simply going to select my control and this box is going to pop up. The main thing you want to make sure here is that column 1 has target ID and not point number. If it does say point number, all you simply have to do is select on it and pull the down arrow key, and you can change that from point number to target ID. If it's not set to target ID, then your points won't be added to your control space. Once you're ready, click Import. Now I can add my registration. Usually I like to highlight my registration and rename it. So in this case, I'm going to call mine Final Registration. And then once I rename that, I can open. I'm going to add my scan worlds. I'm going to add my control first. That way I don't have to set my home scan world once I get inside of there. Then I simply just have to go up to Constraint, Auto Add by Target ID, and I'll come up to Registration and select Auto Update. Once I click over, I'll see that I have some targets, and a couple of them are a little bit further out than I would typically like. I know in this case that I had a bad target out in the field. In this case, it was point number 1002. So instead of having to chase it around, since I already know which one it is, I'm just going to right click and I'm going to disable that, and you'll see that the software automatically recalculates. I have to have a minimum of 3 targets. I usually like to have at least 4 or 5, just in case I do have to turn any of them off. Usually I like to have at least 4 on, so in this case I'm really kind of pushing the limits with having the minimum. But I do have the minimum number of targets required. So now I can just hit registration, create scan world, freeze registration, close my registration, and we'll just open this up real quick just so we can take a look. And once open, if I just zoom in here and select anywhere on the point cloud, you'll see down here that I got my state plane coordinates.